Hey everybody, it's Denise. I am with Team in Training, Go Team, and I am a participant and soon to be coach for the fall season, assuming all goes well with the current pandemic. But I was going to do just a quick session on foam rolling, and this is definitely something that everyone can do at home, of course. As a matter of fact, I keep this one in my living room, so at night when I'm kind of chilling and watching TV, I have it available so I can use it pretty much at any given time, so I don't have any excuses. Before I start, I wanted to mention a few things. There are different densities with foam rollers. This one is the grid by Trigger Point, and it's got the red interior, so it is definitely more firm than the one that has the green interior. So it just, be forewarned that not all foam rollers are the same as far as the tension that they provide. So the ones that have less give, sometimes you have to have a lighter touch with those. This is also a Trigger Point. This one I actually bought for travel because it fits easily in your suitcase, and it's cute and it's pink. So there you go. It is definitely less dense than this one. I also have a Trigger Point ball and a lacrosse ball. So this I really like on my calf muscles if they're particularly tight. And then this sometimes I will use there as well. It tends to be a little bit firmer, the lacrosse ball, than the Trigger Point ball. And it's also good for the glutes. So that's just sort of a brief overview on different options that you have for foam rolling or any kind of rolling, if you will. I typically will do one body part at a time instead of doing one entire leg and then moving on to the next one. The only other thing I wanted to mention quickly was that I don't really roll my IT band. It is not a muscle. It starts out as a muscle up here at the top of the hip, but then it becomes this very thick, tough band of tissue, and it doesn't respond as well to foam rolling. If you insist on foam rolling your IT band, I would first foam roll around it before you start foam rolling directly on the IT band, because it can be very tender and sensitive and you might want to use less pressure. So anyhow, that's again a brief 101 on the different things for foam rolling. And now we're going to get started with foam rolling. All right, I've had some technical difficulties, so I am redoing part of this video, and the part that I'm redoing is the calf muscles. So like I had said before, I normally will do one body part, like both legs, and then move on to the next. It doesn't matter, however you choose to sequence is fine. But if you find that your calves are very tender, you can foam roll. I'm going to actually back out so you can see my calves. You can foam roll both of them together at the same time, just going nice and slow over the foam roller. By having both legs on there, it will provide less pressure and tension. It's not going to be as deep of a feel, if you will. It's going to be it's not going to be as tender to do it this way. So it might be a good idea to start this way and then go to one leg at a time. So I will start with the right. I typically start at the belly of the muscle, right or wrong. Notice that I'm not going up to behind my knee. That is definitely not a good idea. You don't have to put one leg on top of the other. That's just one way to do it. But by doing that, it will provide more tension. And what I mean by that is you're going to feel it more in your muscles. So the other thing you could do, if that is too much, is just put the opposite foot down. And that way you can kind of regulate how much tension you're putting on the muscles. So it's also a good idea to stop and pause once in a while and make sure that you can feel the muscle relaxing. I don't think just doing this a few times and then moving on to the next body part is terribly effective. So, your calf muscles, there's two heads. So there's one here on the interior, and you can certainly see that if you look at the back of somebody's leg. You can see how the muscles separate. And you can go down further, kind of towards where the calf muscle starts to connect here with the Achilles tendon, and then go all the way down. For this, I will normally have my other foot on the floor because this area right here is pretty taut to begin with, and I just feel like, I don't know, to me that feels like a lot of pressure on my Achilles. So I will go all the way down, but I usually have my other foot on the floor. So I'm going to go to the left side, starting here at the top. And then, like I said, there's two different heads to the calf muscle. And so you make sure that you are getting to the outside part and the inside part. You can, again, if it's just like you find an area that really hurts, or not hurts, but is just tight, put the other foot down. That's what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to let my leg rest on top of the foam roller. And I can feel it releasing as far as some of that tension. So there's no sort of set rule that you have to hold it for a certain amount of time, but you want to at least do it long enough so that you feel, perhaps it feels a little bit more comfortable the longer that you roll. So I'm going to go down to closer to the ankle, the Achilles area. But like I said before, I will keep my opposite foot on the floor just so that I don't put too much pressure on that area. And then towards the end, if you want, sometimes just doing a few gliding kind of rolls does feel good. And then you can also see if you miss the area. Like for some reason, the outside of my calf is pretty grouchy at the moment. But so those are your calf muscles, and they do get very, very tight. They put up with so much during our running. So these are ones that you for sure don't want to ignore. So I guess what I have chosen to do is start at the bottom and then go towards the top. So now I am working on the hamstring muscles on the back of the leg. I would definitely not foam roll behind the knee. I would keep it just above the knee and then higher, kind of where the leg starts to meet your butt or the glute muscles. And again, you can sort of switch how you are lying on the foam roller to get, you know, the more interior part of your hamstrings versus those that are on the outside. You have three hamstring muscles that, you know, originate back near the hip and then go down to the tibia or fibula. But anyhow, so nice and slow. Again, stopping on any points where you feel like you have some extra tightness or tenderness. Again, I'm switching depth to the other leg. I tend to like to do the same body part on both legs and then move my way up, but there's no right or wrong. If you want to do one leg at a time, that is completely your option. So I think I may have mentioned that if putting having your other leg up is not too difficult, but provides too much pressure to the leg that you're rolling, you can always put the other opposite leg down to sort of modify or modulate the amount of pressure on the muscles. And you can get pretty high up, all the way up close to the glute. It's really good too to foam roll the hamstrings because they too tend to get injured, especially if you're doing speed work. So that's what happened to me before a marathon last year, and it was a real bummer. So definitely do not ignore the hamstrings. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm sitting on the foam roller, and I'm going to now foam roll the glute muscles and the piriformis. So I actually didn't start doing this here until recently. I didn't even know it was an option. But you start here by sitting on it, and then you roll back, and then back onto it again. So you kind of come off of it, stopping sort of right where your butt meets your leg, and then go back on. Okay. Just like that. It's a little awkward, I have to say, but it is effective. And you can really feel it as you roll down into the top of the back of the leg, where your hamstrings are meeting whatever at the back of the butt. My anatomy is lacking. And then for the piriformis, the way at least I do it is I cross one leg, and for me, the leg that I'm crossing, then I roll into this area right here, which is about where the piriformis muscle, it kind of goes from the inner part of the back of the butt out towards the edge at a diagonal, and it often gets tight and can cause issues for runners, especially females for some reason. Again, if you feel some tightness, you can just, sometimes it helps just to pause and sort of let the muscle settle into the foam roller, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm going to switch to the other side. And sorry for the view, but I'm doing the same thing here on the left side. And again, stopping every once in a while to feel where you may have some tightness, because if you just get on it and just roll back and forth, sometimes you may miss those areas that are a little tender. And just being still for a minute can kind of help the muscle relax a little bit more. Okay, so we've kind of covered the back of the leg, and now we're going to go towards the front, which is for the most part going to be the quad muscles, but you can also roll your shins. All the muscles that are in front of the shins can get tender and sore. You have to sort of use a light touch with that, so let me show you. And this, like I said, is sort of a firm foam roller, so I go kind of like this, just like that, and whoo! I would definitely do both legs at a time, because otherwise you're going to be putting definitely too much pressure if you try to just do one leg at a time. But you do have a bunch of muscles on the front of your shins, and they do get tight and they do get sore, and they get used a lot with running, so it's a great idea to foam roll them. So the next thing is the quad muscles. I normally will start with doing both of them together just to kind of warm them up, and then I'll do one leg at a time. So I just simply, sorry, I can't see my head, and that's kind of okay, because it's really more important for you to see what's going on down here. So I do both legs at one time. Just roll in, go up pretty high, and then all the way down to above the knee. I definitely would not recommend foam rolling your knee. There's no muscle there. It would be extremely painful, and you could probably damage something. So I would for sure stray from doing that. Again, going slow as you go up and down. So now I'm just going to go to the right leg. And so you have a couple options. You can just leave the opposite leg kind of dangling in the air. And if that is too much pressure, you can put that, again, opposite leg down, so that you can more or less moderate the amount of pressure that you're using as you foam roll. And it's important to do the inside of the thigh, and I'm still talking about the quad muscles, not your adductors, and then also the outside. So kind of leaning, so more of that outer edge of the thigh is being rolled and kind of butting up against the IT band. So it is a good idea to foam roll the areas around the IT band for sure. If you want to do that, it is a good idea. Again, I personally don't foam roll my IT band. Whew. Yowza. Yes. So one other thing as far as the IT band. So it does start at the top of the front part of your thigh. It's a muscle called the tensor fasciae latae, or something like that, the TFL. It's a very small muscle, and it's right in this area, and then comes down and inserts outside of your tibia, I believe, whatever, outside of the knee. Anyhow, so what I will do is I will foam roll here, okay, because that muscle does get tight. And so it is, if you find where the top of the thigh, not the top of the thigh, your hip bone is, and go out and below that, and this is only like a 2 or 3 inch space I'm talking about, you will feel that muscle there, and you can just kind of rest on it, and you will feel it relax. And it is a small but mighty muscle, and it will get tight. But by working on this, it will help in terms of releasing some tension in your IT band. So then you can go on to the other side, and again, it's going to be, if you find where the top of your hip bone is, that bony part, and go below it and out a little bit, you'll be able to find it. Especially if you stop moving. Oh my. Wow. Again, it's called the TFL, tensor fasciae latae, I think. I'm not sure I think it's latte, but it's TFL for short because nobody can pronounce it, I suppose. And just rest on that, and you will feel it relax. I would not recommend foam rolling any bony prominences, and what I mean by that is for sure your knees, the hip bone, this area right here. I would not be foam rolling there, but you can do that muscle that we just talked about. Trying to think, and then there's one other. You can do your inner thigh. That one is a little bit tricky. You sort of have to put the foam roller parallel to your body, and then you take one leg and you sort of bend it, and then go out and foam roll kind of left to right, or yeah, I guess you could say left to right, and that will get your adductor muscles, which are the muscles that help to bring your legs in together, and they can get tight, and everything can get tight basically. But you just be careful with how much pressure you do put on. So I'm going to do the other side just so hopefully maybe you can see a little bit better what I mean. So you can see how this is parallel to me, and then this leg is kind of going out at an angle, and I'm rolling back and forth. The headless foam roller here, that's me. But I'm foam rolling that inner thigh, and it is tender. Ooh. I honestly don't do this one very often, which I can tell. So that's it really for foam rolling today. Hopefully it is helpful. With anything, I recommend foam rolling not just when you have an injury. As a matter of fact, it's not a great idea to do it right after you have an injury because you can make it worse. This is the kind of thing that it's great to do like on a daily basis. Sometimes before my runs, if I have time, I will do this in the morning before I head out. It's a great way to warm up the muscles. And then in the evening, I will try to foam roll as well. So honestly, I don't foam roll twice a day, every day by any means, but I try to at least do it once a day. If I can't do it before my run, then after my run. And that is it for now from Denise and Team in Training. I hope this was helpful, and go team.